Welcome back to Valencia for the final race of the 2019 European Talent Cup season. Steve English and Fran Wild here in Valencia, and this could be something a little bit different. Izan Guevara has dominated the 2019 European Talent Cup, but the champion has moved up to the Moto3 Junior World Championship for this weekend's final round of the season. An opportunity is going to present itself for the rest of the field, and we could see a new winner here today because Guevara has been able to claim 6 victories so far this season. We should be able to see a host of riders fighting it out at the front. Last time out, Guevara did start from pole position, and the European Talent Cup champion didn't manage to convert that into an early race start. Unfortunately, though, there was a 5-rider pile-up on that first corner, so Guevara would get an opportunity to try and take the restart again following the red flag. When the race restarted, Guevara did a better job second time out, but he still missed out in the whole shot to the Estrella Galicia riders beside him. And in those early stages of the races, Rueda was able to find his way to the front, and with the top 3 then trying to stretch out a little bit of a lead over Guevara. In the hot conditions, it was tricky for all the riders, and with the top 3 stretching out a lead, the rest of the field were forced to try and push a little bit harder. Guevara was caught out when those conditions, and he crashed out. But in the final lap of the race, Rueda defended all the way to the line and was able to take the race victory in the European Talent Cup. So now in Valencia for the final round of the year here at the Ricardo Tormo circuit. This is a real opportunity for all these European Talent Cup riders. They're going to have 17 laps to try and finish their season on a high. As I said, Izan Guevara has moved on to the Moto3 class for this weekend. So there is an opening now for the rest of this field to try and attack, to try and fight for the race victories, because Guevara has dominated this season. He's been able to claim 6 race victories out of 10, and now at the 11th race of the year, are we going to see a new winner in the European Talent Cup? It's been a strange year because Guevara has been so dominant. Last year in the European Talent Cup, we did see that the champion was Xavier Artigas. He's been able to push himself through to fight it out at the front of the Moto3 class as well over the course of this season. So it does show that if you're able to succeed in the European Talent Cup, you will have those opportunities in the Moto3 Junior World Championship as well. See, the grid has assembled here for the class, and it's a big field once again in the European Talent Cup, but it is led by Iván Ortolá that's been able to take this pole position. As you can see there for Ortolá, he opened the season with 2 victories in Estoril in the tricky conditions, but since then he's been a little bit further down the field, but over the course of Aragon, Jerez and Albacete, he's been able to push himself into those battles for the top 5 and finish inside the top 10 spots. For Ortolá, he'll be trying to fight it out for his first podium since that opening round of the season. Alongside him on the grid will be Aldeguer, and the number 54 has had a podium already this season in Valencia, so he's going to try and make sure that he's able to add to that tally as well. He'll start from the front row for the first time this season, and for Aldeguer, he's 4th in the championship standings, and you can see, other than a couple of blots in the copybook in Estoril for race 1 and Jerez a couple of weeks ago, he really has been quite consistent and able to pretty much always be in that leading group in the European Talent Cup. You'd expect to see more of the same from him through the course of today's racing as well. Also joining them on the front row of the grid is Lorenzo Fellon. Keep an eye out for the number 5. He's the son of Laurent Fellon, of course, the manager of lots of Grand Prix riders over the last few years. And for Fellon, he had a much better season in the Red Bull Rookies Cup than he's had in the European Talent Cup. When we see his results, you'll see he's 13th in the championship standings. But in the Red Bull Rookies Cup, he ended up the season finishing in 5th and came close to the podium at the end of that season. It looks like Fellon's going to move up to the Estrella Galicia junior team in the Moto3 class next season, and that could mean that he also won't be racing in the Red Bull Rookies Cup. He might just be focusing solely on the CEV Moto3 Junior World Championship. 15-year-old Frenchman in Valencia earlier this season, he was in that front group all the way through. You can see 10th in that opening race in Valencia. That was actually even after he had penalties for exceeding track limits. So he's been fast here in Valencia all the way through this season in the opening round of the year here in Valencia, and also here at this final round of the season. On the second row of the grid, we will see Diego Moreira, and for Diego on that number 92 machine that we can see now, He was able to take the whole shot last time out in Albacete, and you can see his form through the season, able to have a really strong performance at Jerez, where he was able to claim a race victory in the second race of the weekend there. And the Brazilian sits 6th in the championship, but as a rookie, he really has been able to impress to be able to take that race victory, and also 3 podiums through the season, 3 podiums in a row for the Brazilian rider. Joining him on that second row of the grid, we are going to see in a couple of moments' time Dejira Sacco as well, and this is his second year in the class. And for a lot of these riders in the European Talent Cup, it really is a case of just trying to make sure that you just grow your experience all the way through. You can see for Sacco, he's been able to be a podium man in this class twice through the course of this season, in Jerez and also in Catalunya, and he's been a decent qualifier through the course of the season, but he is chasing that first race victory of his European Talent Cup career. And Fran, for all these riders in the European Talent Cup, with Guevara off the grid for this weekend, a real opportunity presents itself.
Yep, it's definitely going to be a new winner on the top step in terms of what we've become used to in the recent ETC races. And yeah, definitely a big opportunity for a few guys today, and a good few candidates as well. We've, other than Guevara, who obviously has been a bit of a dominating factor, we've seen a good few shuffles in the ETC over the last couple of seasons, and I'm sure there's a good few guys on this grid who will fancy their chances today.
Yeah, and none more so than Marcos Ruda as well. You can see there a podium earlier this season in Estoril in the tricky conditions, and since then he's just been able to be pretty consistent inside those points-paying positions. But for Ruda, he'll be trying to make sure that he's in a position to try and attack once again, this time in the dry rather than in the wet conditions of Estoril.
Most definitely, and it is most definitely dry out there, although it is a little bit windy. If you joined us previously, we heard in the winner's interview from Moto3, the wind making life a little bit difficult. But yeah, it's sun's out now, so maybe we'll see some more guns out. But yeah, it's pretty nice conditions, just a bit windy and a little bit, I was going to say a little bit frio, but that's not English. A little bit chilly. So yeah, that definitely is something to take into consideration for these guys on these little bikes.
Yeah, and you can see down on the grid, we just saw a quick glimpse there of Roberto Garcia, the 13-year-old. And for Garcia, he's been able to score a point once through the course of this season. The big thing for him and for a lot of these other riders, Fran, is really just about trying to make sure that you're able to build up for next season in the European Talent Cup.
Yeah, most definitely. With it being the final day of their season here, it's not about necessarily becoming a hero in 2019. It's about building those blocks and good foundations for next year for many on this grid. And like we said, without the reigning champion here in the field, there's definitely an opportunity out there for these guys. So here's the grid then. So we've got Iván Ortolá on pole with Fermín Aldeguer, Lorenzo Fellon, Diego Moreira, Dejira Sacco, Marcos Ruda, Roberto Garcia, José Antonio Rueda, and Juan Rodriguez. So a good few Spaniards there looking for a little bit of a home turf glory in this race. And then Zonta van der Gorberg and Mattia Volpi, Alex Millan, Joel Damon Kelso, David Alonso, Eric Fernandez, Marco Morelli, Adrián Cruces, and Gabin Plonk. Adrián Huertas, David Munoz, Daniel Munoz, and then Palazzi, Falcone, Millan, Torresias, Rouget, and Bulik. Tapia, Koffler, Garcia, Morgeda, Detweiler, Moore, Geiger, Falzone, and Vinales. Then you can see again a huge grid we've got. Hoskuk, Maria, Hart, and Lapierre. Got a couple of doubts on a couple of those pronunciations, but not too bad, I don't think, for the international general spread of it.
I'll tell you what, Fran, round of applause for being able to get through that, because there's only Jack Hart that I'd be able to round, really.
I think I cheat with my Spanish. There's a good few Spaniards on this grid, so that's at least not too difficult. You can hear them then roaring away from the grid on the warm-up lap, and like we said, huge number of bikes in this field once again, just like we have in Moto3. Really incredible amount of competitors out there on this grid, and then of course those who didn't quite make the cut who are in the Series 2 race. So an awful lot of interest in this ETC series, and we can see already it's already been paying off. The likes of Artigas and those guys who've moved through. It's a really good little class for learning your craft a little bit, honing your skills, and then moving up. And a good few people have started to make a name for themselves coming from the ETC. So definitely a quality class and really paying off in terms of being added to this FIM CEV Repsol.
Yeah, when you look at the 3 years that we've had in the European Talent Cup, we've been able to see Manuel Gonzalez, the World Supersport 300 champion. He was the inaugural champion in this class. And then also, as you said, Javier Artigas able to move up to the Moto3 class, and he could well finish second in that class as a rookie as well. Fran, these European Talent Cup races, very similar to what we see with the Asia Talent Cup, the British Talent Cup, and what we'll see with the Northern European Talent Cup as well in the future. These really are key for being able to help develop riders, give riders a real chance to be able to go out there, race Grand Prix circuits on Grand Prix bikes and be able to show what they can do.
Yeah, and that Northern Talent Cup that you mentioned, that's coming in next season, which is designed for the guys who maybe would enter this class but who are a little bit geographically further away, the likes of Germans, Dutch, Austrian, Czech, and up into Finland, Sweden, Danish riders, all of those guys. They'll get a bit of a new opportunity to try and learn their skills a little bit more and hone their craft, as it were. But we can see then it does take a long while for 40 guys to make their way around this Valencia circuit. Some in a bit more of a hurry than others. But I'm sure we're going to be on for another cracking race today. Fran,
you were talking about how cold it can be out here as well with the wind. And obviously for these riders, if you have a fast lap to try and build up some temperature in those tyres, you can also end up sitting on the grid for quite a long time, just cooling down those tyres.
You can. So yeah, it's a bit of a balancing act in terms of blasting round and warming up those tyres and then facing a good few seconds longer sat on this grid as everyone else lines up. But you can see then no worry for Ortolá on that from pole, but most of the grid now then in place already. They've managed to make their way on pretty quickly. Lorenzo Fellon there on the front row, getting ready to not exceed track limits as he did earlier in the year and have a bit of a cleaner race today, we hope.
You can see the red flag now being taken away at the front of the field. We've got Ortolá on pole from Aldeguer and also Lorenzo Fellon on that front row of the grid. The 24 of Ortolá on that pole position. When the lights go out, Ortolá makes a good start initially, but it's a bad start from Fellon. He's been engulfed down in that run down in towards turn 1. It looks like Ortola's been able to hold on to that whole shot on the run down in towards turn 1. You can see the 95 of Rueda trying to attack down the inside into turn 1 on Fellon. Fellon able to do a decent job, Fran, to actually hold on to 4th because he made a really bad start.
Yeah, despite those difficulties then off the start for the Frenchman, not too much lost actually in the first couple of corners, and then he's back up into 3rd. So good job from the number 5 there to hold on to that, despite, like we said, a bit of a rougher start there.
Yeah, Marcos Ruda on the 69 trying to attack down into turn 2. Ran in a little bit too deep. Ortola's been able to pick him off. Ortolá, of course, winner of the opening 2 races of the year in Estoril. And he's been able to hold on to that lead through the first couple of corners. But you can see for the number 69, he's under attack from Lorenzo Fellon now as well. Fellon doing a good job to be able to get himself back up into 3rd. He made a bad start, but he's immediately, Fran, been able to just get the elbows out and make sure he holds on to those leading positions.
He has, and despite a bit of a wobble a couple of corners ago as well. But you can see then Ruda attacking for the lead. Looks like he's going to take it, and yeah, so pretty interesting couple of first laps. I was going to say that would have gone quickly. First few corners in this race, and Ruda then a bit of a star starter and really dealing well with those first couple of corners. And there's no way through then for Ortolá, our pole sitter, to try and take that back, and Fellon as well looking to try and capitalise. Really good job by the Frenchman to, like we said, stay in those first few positions after that awful start off the line.
Yeah, and let's see if he's able to make a run down in towards these final corners. It looks like the 5's going to try and attack on Ruda as well. Ruda, of course, podium man in Estoril at the start of the year as well, Fran, but trying to have a good result here now in the drive. Fellon down the inside into that final corner, able to pick his way through into 2nd spot. Good riding there from Lorenzo as well. As mentioning earlier on, Fran, that he's going to be stepping up to the Moto3 class next year. It looks like with the Estrella Galicia team, and probably also not racing in the Red Bull Rookies Championship. He's going to just try to focus on the Moto3 class.
Yeah, obviously it is good to get experience in both categories, but as well, if you're going to choose one and go full attack on that, it's a very worthwhile campaign in either as well. Both great classes to hone your skills. And you can see then the Frenchman is in the lead of this race and able to hold on to it there. And pretty tidy now after that initial bad getaway and then a couple of wobbles. He looks like he's gathered it all together now. Yeah,
it's been a tricky season for Fellon in the European Talent Cup, but he has been able to run at the front of the Red Bull Rookies Championship throughout the course this year, able to finish 5th in the class and able to fight it out for podiums through the course of the season as well. So for Fellon now, it really is a case trying to finish his European Talent Cup season and in all likelihood his European Talent Cup career on a high here. You can see there that just running out a little bit too wide there was Aldeguer on the number 54 machine.
Yeah, Aldeguer then made some good progress, got back into this front here. Oh, I thought he was going to get a bit of a bash there, but no harm done. You can see with the ETC riders, it's all a little bit looser than you get in Moto3. A few more different lines and ways around this track and a few more open doors. And yeah, it's going to be interesting in the last few laps, certainly. But at the moment, nothing too crazy. And you see a couple of guys already looking behind them. Like, guys, you're on the first couple of laps of the race. Of course, there's a lot of people right behind you.
I thought maybe they just dropped a fiver and they were just making sure that they were able to see it. But you can see at the front of the field, Fellon's not looking over his shoulder. He's trying to make sure that he's able just to focus on the track in front of him, see if he's able to open up a little bit of a gap at the front. Not quite able to do that though, because the 54 of Aldeguer able to really attack him once again. And for this leading group now, Fran, they are trying to splinter themselves out, and you can see probably these first 5-6 riders might have the opportunity just try and open up a little bit of a gap. You can see down in towards turn 1, Ortolá goes from 3rd to 1st, and Fellon goes from 1st to 4th. Pretty typical of what we see in the European Talent Cup.
Yeah, that slipstream obviously as well. You could see the number 54 of Aldeguer just taking a bit of a wider line through the final corner and able to make that work for him, because we saw a couple of guys last time around heading way too wide through there and really losing out, getting shuffled back a few positions. And again there you could see as well a lot of ground loss for that second group, which is fast becoming a second group, and they have to make sure they don't lose too much ground. Although in the ETC it really can concertina very, very quickly, and we've seen guys who are a couple of seconds back even able to make that progress, and there are a good few laps left. We're in the very early stages of this race. Yeah,
it looks like it's Rueda, Moreira and Van der Gerberg at the front of that second group. You can see the number 80 there of David Alonso is up to 5th position now. So the more that they fight, the more that the opportunity is for these race leaders to be able just to stretch their legs, open up a little bit of a lead. You can see those front 4 just are opening up a little bit of a gap now, Frank.
Yeah, and like we said during the first Moto3 race of the day as well, if you joined us for that, Valencia is a track that does allow you to try and make that gap and escape. So we've got a crash then already for Zonta van der Gerberg. So Dutchman down and out of this race, but up and okay at least, and walking away a little dejectedly, but no harm done.
Yeah, it's been a tough season for Van der Gerberg in the European Talent Cup. He's actually been able to finish in the top 6 twice in the Red Bull Rookies at the Red Bull Ring, and just hasn't quite been able to show that pace in the European Talent Cup. Different class here compared to what you get in the Red Bull Rookies, and a much bigger field here as well. 40 riders in this European Talent Cup, but Van der Gerberg able to show a lot more of his potential in the Red Bull Rookies Cup this year.
Yeah, so hopefully then we'll see him able to be a little bit more consistent next season. But you can see these guys then, a few a little bit wide there and on the green stuff. And fastest lap last time around rather was David Alonso then in 5th place. And you can see that gap then coming down to these lead 4. And it's gonna, I think, pretty much go back into a bit of a freight train at the front fairly soon.
Yeah, and you can see at the back of that group is the number 92 of the Australia Galicia rider, Diego Moreira, and that is in 9th position. So we could easily have a Fran where these top 9 all do manage just to close up on one another, and we've got a 9 rider fight it out at the front. We saw in the Moto3 class just how easily those groups can stay quite large at the start of the races, and then once you start attacking, it's quite easy just to start to get to a little bit splintered when riders start to trip over one another. You can see here in the live championship standings as well, obviously for Guevara, he's been able to claim the championship already, so it really is a fight for 2nd in the standings in the European Talent Cup right now. And for all these riders, the likes of Jose Rueda in 2nd in the championship standings, the number 95 needs to get himself up the order another few positions, otherwise he's going to find himself under attack in that scrap for 2nd in the championship, because right now, Fran, there's only 9 points separating Rueda, Alonso, Aldeguer and Ortolá as well in those championship standings.
Yeah, it's a lot of riders there who could potentially take over in 2nd. A couple of them would need disasters for those around them, but definitely by no means a job already done for Jose Rueda, who's currently the rider in 2nd. Guevara, obviously, he's got the job done and consequently not racing in this final round, instead choosing to get some experience in the next category up. But yeah, there's a lot to fight for in terms of the runner-up position here, and obviously the race win as well, especially like we said with the reigning champion not present. And at the moment then, these guys, a bit of the class of the field. You can see Fellon, Ortolá and those guys are now joined by David Alonso, who seems to have made his way into this group. definitely still managing to maintain a little bit of daylight over that second group at least.
Yeah, you can see there Alonso, the fastest rider out on the racetrack right now, half a second faster than our race leader Iván Ortolá, and so the number 80 there of the Ángel Nieto team. And for Alonso, he's just trying to make sure that he's able to pick his way through this group, keep at the front. In all these Talent Cup races, Fran, it doesn't matter whether it's in Asia, Europe or the British Talent Cup, it really is a case of trying to make sure you're able to hold on to those positions inside the top 3 or 4 just to be able to always attack and not have to think too much about having to come through the pack.
Yeah, definitely, and you can see then Palazzi as another crasher out of this race, but again, up and okay, which is the important thing. But yeah, definitely attacking is the name of the game in the ETC and in Moto3, even at World Championship level, as well as in the Junior World Championship. And yeah, Asia Talent Cup, British Talent Cup, I'm sure it will be the same in the Northern Talent Cup next year. But these big group battles, so entertaining, but also such a challenge for these guys as well in terms of tactics and where they're going to put themselves on the final lap or in the last few laps. But at the moment, though, the tactics for the guys at the front are fairly clear. Just keep on pushing on and trying to at least make this a few riders fighting out for the podium by the end of the race. But they do have company, and it seems that gap has come down, and we now have a bit of a freight train. They've just gone past the comms box, and there's definitely no daylight between that front sort of 8 or 9 riders now. You can see 3 or 4 wide into turn 1, pretty standard for the ETC. Yeah,
you can see all the way down that leading group. There's only 1.5 seconds separating the top 10, so we now have a 10-rider group with you can see David Alonso just trying to attack once again. He holds on to that 4th position. He's been fast all the way through this race so far, and now it's a case of whether or not he's going to be fast enough, Fran, to be able to make some of these moves, because in the European Talent Cup, it is a little bit easier to be able to try and attack some of the riders around you. You're able to use the slipstream a little bit more. The bike's not quite as top speed as what we see in the Moto3 class. You are able to use the slipstream a little bit more, but you do need to be very aggressive to try and make the moves, because these are the last of the life breakers through the CEV championships, and these are also the bikes that can hold an awful lot of corner speed.
Yeah, most definitely. So that's why you get so many shuffles corner by corner, just everyone trying to scrap it out for their few centimetres of track. But at the moment then, it's still a familiar name in the lead at the moment, and it's the number 5, Frenchman Fellon. But good job from him so far, like we said, after that difficult start, good recovery, and he's yeah, been leading a good couple of laps now. But these guys starting to get a little bit feistier as that second group have caught them, and yeah, those Estrella Galicia machines done a good job to hunt down that gap and tag onto the back of the front 4 or 5.
Yeah, Fellon's had a pretty tough season all the way through. He missed the opening round of the year in Estoril, and then ever since then he's really just been able to fight at the front, but not able to get the results that would have been expected of him. Once he was in the Red Bull Rookies Cup, though, he was able to fight it out for podium positions. Didn't quite manage to pick up a Rookies Cup podium, but he was able to at least get into those scraps. He showed flashes of what he can do, and that's why he's been linked with that Estrella Galicia ride for next season. But you can see on the run down in towards turn 1, once again he goes from 1st to 4th, and David Alonso able to get himself up into 2nd. He's attacked his teammate there, Ortolá, as well. So the number 80, he's been the man on the move all the way through this race. He's now moved his way up into 2nd spot. Fran, the goal for him has to be try and get himself to this race lead now as well.
Yeah, I'm sure, and I'm sure there's a few nervous faces down at the Ángel Nieto team garage as well with moves like that. Pretty feisty, but we can see then it's Aldeguer who's emerged in the lead, and Fellon, like we said, shuffled back down into 4th. That's the effect it can have, that slipstream on the main straight, and when they all go into turn 1, 3, 4 abreast, it's really anyone's guess as to who's going to come out in front. But if you are leading out the final corner, there's a good chance you may not be out of turn 1.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why actually all the way through all the Talent Cups are interesting for everyone inside different paddocks. There's actually a couple of paddocks that have the Talent Cup lotteries where you pick a name out of a hat, and that's your rider to follow, and really is a case of just trying to give you someone to back through the course of a race as well. And for a lot of these riders, it does just show just how much of a lottery it can be, because you can go from the back of a group straight up to the front as well. So right now you've got Adrián Cruces down in that 10th spot at the back of this group. He's going to have the chance, Fran, to try and pick off a couple of these riders in front of him.
Yeah, definitely, and that's what's made the season of Izan Guevara really impressive as well. Just that consistency he was able to show in a field that does shuffle so much, corner by corner, lap by lap, and of course race by race. But yeah, so great job for him to have won so many races in a row. I think it was 5 or 6 in a row he won mid-season. Really incredible run from him. But yeah, like we said, the incredible close battles that you get here and how quickly it can change for even yet groups of 9-10 riders really show how much it really does yeah, it's really meritable season from him to have been able to show that consistency, and a little bit of inconsistency with track limits there at the back of this group. Again, they do need to be careful with the green stuff because now we're not on the first lap of the race, and race direction will be looking if we've seen any advantages gained by those just running a little bit wide consistently. If that's the route they're trying to take in order to gain a little bit of speed, that's what's really not okay.
Yeah, it was the 76 there of Joel Kelso at the back of this group that was running wide into turn 1, and he's been able to at least keep himself into position here. It really is a case of whether or not you're able to gain significant advantages from it. Race direction here in the CEV, always pretty much on the ball in terms of those penalties for exceeding track limits. We saw it actually in the Moto3 class. Jeremy Alcoba in Catalonia was actually given a time penalty. He wasn't the only man in Catalonia to be given that penalty as well. We also saw it with Lorenzo Fellon, the man that's been able to get himself to the front of this field a few times on the number 5 machine. Here in Valencia earlier in the season, he was given a penalty for exceeding those track limits. The long lap penalty is just beside the riders there through turn 11, and if you exceed those track limits, you will be forced to take that penalty.
You most definitely will. And then you could see in the live championship that came up then that it's currently Aldeguer and Alonso who've gained a little bit on José Antonio Rueda, who's currently the man in second. If it were to finish like this or something similar at least, but he's in that group as well, so there's plenty of time left within this race to try and take back that position.
I always love the optimism of the live championship standings in a battle here with 10 riders at the front of a European Talent Cup race, because it changes all the time. Look at Fellon on the number 5. He's coming from 4th. He's going to have an opportunity to try and attack down into turn 1. But look at Ruda on the 69. He's been able to get himself through from 5th to 2nd.
Yeah, really nice stuff there, but not able to quite keep it, or lost it all on the exit there.
It takes the lead from running wide.
Yes, that will be probably of interest to the overlords of race direction, but it's just that one infraction for now. But yeah, it was a pretty nice move until it all went a little bit wrong on the exit there. But yeah, we've got some good competition now in this front group. It doesn't look like anyone's going to be able to quite break away from it at the moment. And we can see, yeah, like we said, there's second in the championship on the line here, and all of those guys are in this battle.
Yeah, and you can see Ortolá able to get himself through into 3rd. He was the pole man, and that seems a long time ago, because in these European Talent Cup races, we're only at half distance now, and a lot changes all the way through this race. It really is a case of just trying to survive and then thrive at the end of the race. And for Ortolá, he's been able just to get shuffled back once again there. It looks like the number 54 has been able to get through. At the front of the field, though, Marcos Ruda is leading the way, but he did that, Fran, after running wide through turn 1. It really is a case of he should probably give back a couple of positions now just to avoid having the possibility of those penalties.
I'm not sure he will, but yeah, yeah, definitely something to look at, but we'll have to see if that's just classed as, oh, I made a mistake, or if it was some sort of significant advantage gained. But at the moment, though, he's still in the lead, and Aldeguer looking pretty racy there to take back over in second. But again, he almost looked like he was heading a little bit wide and does seem to have lost out on a bit of drive down this straight. So I'm sure we're going to have another 3 or 4 bike wide squabble into turn 1, and hopefully a little bit cleaner outcome than last time around.
Yeah, you can see Ortolá on the 24 trying to get down the inside of his teammate. We saw some nervous faces with Gino Borsoi then in the Ángel Nieto pit box a few moments ago. There's going to be even more nervous faces when those riders get close to one another. David trying to get down the inside there on the number 80 machine, and Alonso looks like he's been able to make that move, runs in a little bit too deep, and you can see there a couple of riders running all the way wide of those track limits. It looks like it could have been Lorenzo Fellon on the exit of turn 2, and Ortolá has been able to keep himself up into P2 there, able to get down the inside of his teammate David Alonso as well. So Marcos Ruda continuing to lead here on the number 69 machine, but that looks like he's going to be under attack as well now, Fran, because Iván Ortolá looks like he's got the pace to back up his pole position from yesterday.
He definitely does, and now he's been able to escape slightly from the clutches of his teammate. No quarter given between those two so far in this race. So yeah, like you said, nervous faces from Gino Borsoi, and that looked like it was going to be a bit of a disaster, but he pulls out of it, and I'm sure he'll be attacking again soon for the lead of this race, because yeah, Ortolá at the moment looks like he's got some pace on Ruda ahead of him, but good job done by Ruda so far to lead a couple of laps nice and clean after that mistake, after he had taken the lead. But Yeah, I think we're going to get another few interesting moves in a minute from those two guys and a few more nervous faces down in that garage.
Yeah, we're just at halfway through this race now, and for all these riders, it really is a case now of trying to put yourself into a position to stay at the front of this group. You can see Lorenzo Fellon on that number 5 machine. Fran, he's actually done a pretty good job because he hasn't actually been in a position to try and make some moves to get himself to the front of this group, but he keeps himself in 3rd or 4th position. Yeah,
not a bad job done from the number 5. He did lose out a little bit a couple of laps ago, but yeah, he's just able to stay there, and that's pretty important in the ETC. Like we've said, it's just being present in the right place at the right time. Although he did look like he just lost out there a little bit. Have to see how that shuffles out. But the Estrella Galicia machines then at the moment are the ones on the move. And of course, yeah, the two Ángel Nieto team bikes still very much on the attack. But Ruda...
Oh! David Alonso, he's down with Lorenzo Fellon down in towards turn 3, and you can see from Alonso, he puts his hands in the air, and he's furious as to what happened there. It looked like the field just got themselves congested all the way through there, and Fellon, he holds his hands up saying that he had done nothing wrong there as well. Fran, that really does look like a case of just too many bikes getting too close together down into those tight corners here, and Valencia down in towards turn 3. You can see Fellon's fury.
Yeah, it must be, obviously Fellon definitely absolutely skittled there. Didn't see exactly what caused that Alonso crash. Don't know if it was his mistake or if there's a bit of a shuffle there, but definitely, like you said, too many bikes, not enough space, and we'll have to see if we get a replay of that moment. But both riders up and okay, always the main thing, but Fellon, yeah, absolutely skittled there. So let's see what happened.
Oh, it looked like maybe contact between the number 80 of Alonso and maybe one of the Estrella Galicia riders just caused him to have to shut off the throttle, and then he loses the front, and then Lorenzo Fellon just has absolutely nowhere to go, and just a case there of too many bikes into the wrong place of the racetrack, and an unfortunate racing incident there. Shame for Alonso as well, Fran, because he had looked fast through the course of this race.
He most definitely had, yeah. Him and teammate Ortolá had been pretty big presences at the start in the front group so far, but at the moment then we still have the 24 of Ortolá in this race, and we do have a long lap penalty coming up as well on our screen, so that's for Kiko Maria, the number 4. So yeah, like we said, track limits, it is something to take into consideration. Yeah. But we've lost 2 of the front group now then, and it looks like we're going to get a new, no, not quite, look like he's going to go for it. But Ortolá then, you can see though, that maturity, he's not willing to take too much risk at this stage in the race, and just stalking Ruda and looking for the right moment to try and strike.
Yeah, we saw what can go wrong in these leading groups if you do try and be a little bit too aggressive. Now that leading group has fallen down to only 8 riders. It's Roberto Garcia at the back of this group, but the 76 of Kelso as well, the Australian rider, looks like he's been able to pick off a couple of riders. He's been able to make some decent progress as well. Fran, he's now up into 5th position there for the Aussie.
Yeah, that's pretty good stuff from him. I can't help but think of Scrubs every time we mention his name. But yeah, good progress, and nice clean ride as well, just in the group, making some progress, nothing too crazy. We've seen some fairly feisty stuff so far from the rest of them in this Oh, and you can see then perfect pickpocket maneuver there from Ortolá to take the lead. Really nice stuff from the number 24. And I think he's going to definitely be one to watch here, because it looked like he did have a little bit more pace than Ruda. And you can see Ruda already under pressure as well from the Estrella Galicia machine just behind him for that 2nd place.
Yeah, good move from Ortolá to be able to take the race lead there from Ruda down the inside into turn 11. But it looks like, is Ruda going to be close enough? Not quite to be able to try and attack down into this last corner. But Ruda, he has been able to stay at the front of this field, Fran, for about 5 laps. So he's got good pace, and he's definitely going to try and put himself into position to try and attack down in towards turn 1. You can see the slipstream in action there for these riders, just closing up on one another. All these machines absolutely identical, so it is the slipstream that makes that big difference. Look at the Estrella Galicia rider there, the number 92, trying to get around the outside as well down into turn 1, but Kelso able to move himself up into those top 3 spots.
Yep, nice move there, and like we said, every single time through that turn 1, it just shuffles whoever's been in the lead coming out onto the main straight down at least 2-3 positions. But I think the trick is you need to really make that gap throughout the rest of the lap and arrive out of that final corner with just enough breathing space to try and hold on to that lead. And for Ortolá last time around, just didn't have enough time to try and give himself a bit of clear air. But it will be interesting now. Ruda again is the man to have profited from that and back in the lead. Really solid ride from him so far, looking nice and consistent at the front, and taking the pressure pretty easily, it seems, from the outside. Cool and calm, just getting the job done.
Doing a good job there, the number 69 machine. And for Marcos Ruda, he has finished on the podium already this year at the opening round of the year in Estoril, but this is the best we've seen him through the course of this season as well, Fran. This is in dry weather conditions, and he's really having to earn it to stay at the front of this field, and the 69 certainly doing that. Ortolá looks like he's got quite a lot of potential to be able to try and get himself to the front. As I said, Kelso's just been able to slowly pick his way through, and he's been able to get himself up into those top 5 positions. He's up there in 4th. You can see the trio of Estrella Galicia riders there, well placed at the back of this group. But it really is a case now, Fran, where you've got 8 riders in this leading group, and all of them have a real opportunity in the final third to be able to put themselves into the podium positions. We said at the start of the race that with Izan Guevara out of this race, having moved up to the Moto3 class for today's racing, that an opportunity is going to present itself to a lot of these riders to be able to try and attack and try and claim a race victory.
Most definitely it is, and like we said, yeah, at the moment we've still got 8 riders in contention for that. And Ortolá then back into the lead of this race, just about staying in track limits there, pretty close to it, but nicely done. And Ruda again attacking back, and it's all getting a little bit close around there. Have to be careful not to just cut anyone's nose off. But yeah, like you said, Kelso, kind of a bit of a silent stalker there in 4th at the moment. Nothing too crazy from the number 76, but a job well done to really get up there and looking pretty solid. Yeah,
and another rider looking very solid is the number 10 there of Adrián Cruces as well. He's come through from the 6th row of the grid, so he really has done a good job through the course of today to now be the leading Estrella Galicia rider. Always a strong team, Fran, and if you're at the front of their group, you're always pretty much guaranteed to be at the front of a field here in the CEV class. He's up into 2nd spot. He's going to try and attack on Ruda, but Ruda really strong on the break point down in towards the left-hander at the end of the back straight. He's doing a really good job to stay in front. 3.5 laps to go.
Yes, 3.5 laps to go is quite a way for these guys though, isn't it? Plenty can still happen in this race. Oh, they're getting pretty close together. Again, Ortolá, that's a nice move there. Just cleanly through back into 3rd place then. But you can see Cruces, yeah, really good ride from him. The other guys from that Estrella Galicia stable just seem a little more content to sit just at the back of this group, but he's made some pretty rapid progress through to the front.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if you're Rueda on the number 95 machine, you want to make sure that you're able to pick off a couple of these riders around you, because you're still in that scrap for 2nd in the championship. You can see the 95 now trying to attack Kelso, and is he going to be close enough to try and make that move down the start-finish straight? You'd imagine he will. Another move probably coming down in towards turn 1. Looks like it could be from Iván Ortolá to try and make the move into 2nd spot. But Cruces on that number 10 machine doing a really good job to stick inside that slipstream of the race leader, Marcos Ruda, and able to hold on to 2nd spot there is Adrián Cruces.
Yeah, and Ruda doing a really good job to hold on to the lead there as well. So I think at the moment he's definitely penciled himself in as favourite for this win at this stage in the race. But yeah, Cruces, really good job. And like we said, the number 95 of Rueda, he needs to be a little bit mindful of making a little bit of progress soon, because yeah, he is currently leading that fight for 2nd overall, but it's only 2 points he has ahead of David Alonso. And like we said, there's a few riders within sort of 9-10 points, and with just one moment in this race, it could be a big shuffle at the top of the standings.
Yeah, and you can see there that the number 7 there of Muniz just trying to attack his way through. He actually qualified really strongly in those leading positions in yesterday's session. He was actually started from 20th on the grid, but that was after a time penalty that was given to him. He actually qualified 6th fastest on the number 7 machine, but just doesn't quite have that pace, Fran, to be able to get himself to the front of this group and get himself up into those battles for the race lead. But David Muniz on the number 7 having a decent performance here from the 6th row of the grid.
Yeah, definitely. You can see this group, and still plenty of action happening down here. And again, classic ETC manoeuvres, just switching and changing every lap. And we've got a track limits warning as well for rider number 14.
It's Troquilas down the field.
Torresillas, yeah.
For all these riders, it does just give them the warning that the race direction is keeping an eye on those track limits.
Big brother is watching you. When
and it's one of the Estrella Galicia riders has gone down. It looks like it could be the number 92 machine.
It is indeed. So a bit of a heartbreak then for Diego Moreira out of this race. The Brazilian up and okay. Have to see if they can hopefully get that machine cleared off the track pretty quickly. But, well, that's his charge in this race over then. And we've got 7 in this front group, and a bit of a gap there where the Brazilian went down as well.
Yeah, and you can see it's the number 10 there of Adrián Cruces, teammate to the Brazilian Diego, and he's just trying to move his way up into 2nd spot. That is Diego Moreira just trying to make his way away. Keeping a look out for the number 92 machine just at the left-hand side of this shot. You're going to see that he runs into the back of Kelso. and then just a passenger from that point onwards. So clearly just able to exit that corner really strongly. Kelso lucky to be able to stay upright as well, and lucky to be able to hold on to his position. He's still in 5th position right now, is the Leopard Junior Team rider, so able to at least hold on to those leading positions. But you can see the 95 now, Fran. Rueda, he knows he has to try and be aggressive. He knows he has to try and get himself through to the front of this group. He's got 2 laps left. He's still trying to hold on to second in this championship. But speaking of second there, you can see the number 54 of Aldeguer able to get himself through into P2.
You can. You really want him to be number 55, don't you?
I do.
Every single time. But yeah, Aldeguer is one of those key rivals for Rueda in the fight for second overall. So that's a pretty juicy battle. And Ortolá as well, although he's a little bit further back. And yeah, it's going to get pretty feisty, I think, on the final lap of this race in a few minutes.
Obviously, Fran, I'm just thinking of Hector Feibel and some of his performances here in Valencia in the past. But Aldeguer trying to attack down into the race lead here. We're on to that final lap of the race once they come across the line this time around. So you can see at the front, it is still Iván Ortolá. Our pole man leads onto the final lap of the European Talent Cup season, but he's going to come under attack then in towards turn 1. We've got all these riders in this leading group, Fran. Any of them are going to be able to pick up this race victory. There's 6 of them there, and it's Kelso at the back, and all of these riders are going to have an opportunity to try and attack, try and get to the front.
Yeah, you can see me just wincing as I prepare for this final lap. I think it's going to go off
Fran.
now. Absolutely. So it's Aldeguer at the moment then who's taken over in the lead. So that's all he needs to do really to try and take over in second overall, providing that Rueda is a little bit further down in this little battle. But then Ortolá then making a move for second as well. I think this is all going to go down to the final corner and the drag to the line.
Yeah, it's all going to go down to that point. But the big problem for all these riders is we haven't actually seen anyone able to make the move across the line before the start-finish line. So you are going to have to try and make that move down in towards the last corner. The start-finish straight just not long enough until the finish line to be able to use that slipstream to try and get yourself through. You can see Adrián Cruces there on the number 10 machine. He's trying to make sure he can hold off Ruda, but at the front of the field it is still Iván Ortolá trying to attack. But for Ortolá now, Fran, the clock really is ticking. It comes down to whether or not he can make the move down into turn 11 or maybe down in towards turn 13 at the end of the lap.
Yep, it is. It's all going to come down to the last couple of corners here, and you can see then just looking for a way through, but there is no way through. Aldeguer nice and wily there, and doing a good job is the number 54 in the lead at the moment. But it's yeah, it's all going to come down to those last couple of corners, and I think he'll be expecting an attack.
Aldeguer was a podium man here in Valencia earlier this season. The pole man here for today's race was the number 24 there of Iván Ortolá. He's going to try and get down the inside into that final corner. It looks like he has managed to do it, and also Cruces able to get down the inside of Aldeguer as well. And Iván Ortolá able to claim this race lead. Is he going to be able to hold it off until the race finishes on the finish line? It looks like Ortola's been able to claim that race victory, and it looks like we might have been able to see that Ruda might have been able to claim second there, but it looks like Aldeguer also able to finish on the podium. We'll wait and see what
Do we definitely trust our timing screen on that one? That was incredibly close there behind Ortolá taking that victory. A 10th and a half for him, but then the guys behind all hundredths deciding it.
And it looks like we have a penalty that's come in for the number 69 of Marcos Ruda for exceeding track limits. He's going to lose a position, and it looks like he came across the line in third. Is he going to be able to hold on to that podium? The man in fourth was Adrián Cruces. He might well be elevated onto a podium spot. Fran, there was only 0.2 of a second between the top 4 across the line there. Another great race in the European Talent Cup.
It was, and a classic photo finish there between those 3 guys trying to get that second place overall. But Iván Ortolá, really impressive win from him. You can see he's pretty happy about that one as well. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see then what happens with that third place and who's going to complete the podium when we get up on the box in a minute.
Yeah, and for Iván Ortolá, there's no doubt that he was able to convert that pole position, take the race victory. He was a 10th of a second clear of that scrap for third, but there was 3 riders separated by absolutely nothing across the line. Only 16 thousandths of a second between Aldeguer, Ruda and Cruces, and we'll wait and see exactly how that plays out for the podium spots. You can see Aldeguer able to celebrate now for that podium spot, and he'll make his way back to Parc Ferme. It looks like he's going to be classified in second spot, but it's just about who's going to take that third spot, considering Marcos Ruda was given that warning on the last lap for exceeding track limits and forced to cede a position. But for Aldeguer, he's able to plant his flag down there and able to get his way to Parc Ferme in a few moments' time. It'll be interesting to know what he has to say after that race as well, because that was a real battle all the way through. And you can see for Adrián Cruces, the number 10 machine, is he going to be on the podium? He finished 4th. Looks like he's now been classified in 3rd position. That's because Marcos Ruda has been demoted a position. It looks like the number 10 of Cruces has been sent down in towards Parc Ferme for the podium finishers, and that will mean that Marcos Ruda will be finishing in 4th position. Ruda has, just looking outside our commentary box, just been sent on towards Parc Ferme, but not down in towards the podium celebrations. So it looks like Ruda has lost that 3rd position. Cruces comes through from the 6th row of the grid to be able to finish on the podium. Aldeguer on the podium as well. But this is our race winner, Iván Ortolá. He's been able to claim another great day here for the Ángel Nieto team, and for Ortolá, he converts that pole position. It was his first ever pole position in the European Talent Cup, and after winning the opening 2 rounds of the year, he finishes the season in style by claiming another race victory. Really good stuff there from Iván Ortolá on that Ángel Nieto team to be able to claim the European Talent Cup success here at the final race of the season. With the European Talent Cup champion having moved on to the Moto 3 class for today, Izan Guevara, he'll be in action once again this afternoon, but it opened the door for the rest of the European Talent Cup field to be able to try and show what they can do, and they really were able to put on a show here in Valencia. That there is Adrián Cruces able to finish on the podium, and for the Estrella Galicia rider, it's just another really strong performance. His 2nd podium in a row. He was on the podium last time out in Albacete as well. So for Cruces, he's been able to finish the season very strongly and able to claim that podium position. You can see here with Aldeguer, he's been able to claim another podium. That's his 3rd of the season. He was also on the rostrum here in Valencia earlier in the season, and also at the 5th race of the season in Catalonia as well. So on these Grand Prix style tracks, he really has been able to have some good results here in the European Talent Cup. And for Aldeguer, we'll see him down in Parc Ferme as well. He missed out by only 1/10 of a second on taking this race victory. He led into that final corner, but just ran out a little bit wide, and it opened the door then for Iván Ortolá to be able to come through and take that race victory. But you can see for Aldeguer, he's pretty happy to be able to finish on the podium and able to get down there to celebrate with his team as well. The young Spaniard able to finish in 2nd spot. He's down there with the Mugen Race Junior Team as well, and obviously for the number 54, he'll have the opportunity as well to look to see what he can do next season. This gives him a real opportunity to build on this as well. 3 podiums in the European Talent Cup, and he'll try and make sure that he can use this as a springboard for next season, because as we said earlier on, the European Talent Cup really has been able to find some stars over the last few years. It's already crowned a world champion in Manuel Gonzalez, the World Supersport 300 champion, a real intelligent rider all the way through the season from Gonzalez in the world stage, and he learned that here in the European Talent Cup. Javier Artigas won the championship last year, and we've been able to see what he can do all the way through this year in the Moto 3 class. He's going to have the chance to finish as the runner-up as a rookie in the Moto 3 class, so it does just show what you can learn in the European Talent Cup. From pole position, Iván Ortolá was able to make a good start, and it really was a case of himself and Aldeguer fighting with one another all the way through this race. The number 69 of Marcos Ruda was able to get himself to the front throughout proceedings, but he would ultimately end up finishing off the podium after that late race penalty. You can see Lorenzo Fellon able to attack all the way through these early stages of the race, able to get himself to the front of the field, and this probably was the best showing we've seen from the Frenchman all the way through this season, able to be strong and comfortable at the front of the field throughout the race. But unfortunately for Fellon, his race would be ended with a crash with another rider. But at the front of the field, Ortolá was able to constantly find a way to get himself to the front. Himself and the rest of this leading group of 10 riders were able to enjoy a really strong battle throughout. This is where we saw the number 80 of David Alonso start his attack. He was fast in those early laps, but unfortunately in the mid section of this race, this is whenever he had his incident with Lorenzo Fellon as well. You can see this is him moving up into 2nd spot, but keep an eye on the left hand side of the screen. Just contact there with what looks like it could have been one of the Estrella Galicia riders, and it left him just in the path of Lorenzo Fellon as well. Fellon was really just an innocent victim there in those closing stages of the race. But Diego Moreira, he made contact with Kelso on that penultimate lap, and that's what took him out of the proceedings. Adrián Cruces trying to be aggressive, try and fight it out for the podium spots. He was able to get himself through into second spot at one point, but he'd end up finishing third position after the penalty for Marcos Ruda dropped him from third and elevated Cruces. But Iván Ortolá was able to claim his third race victory of the European Talent Cup season. He bookends the campaign with victories in Estoril and here at the final race of the year in Valencia. So we wait the riders onto the podium, and you can see Iván Ortolá, the first man out there and onto the top step of the podium. Second position for Fermín Aldeguer, and then we also have Adrián Cruces on the podium for the Estrella Galicia team following that penalty for Marcos Ruda. Ruda being adjudged to have exceeded track limits and forced to cede that third position to Cruces. Cruces will be the first rider to receive his trophy, but before all that we'll be able to see the team's trophy being presented to the Ángel Nieto squad as well. So another race victory for the Ángel Nieto team, and they had a few nervous looks through the course of this race with David Alonso really fast throughout, but unfortunately for Alonso, he wasn't able to fight it out until the very end, and his teammate though was able to claim that race victory. You can see here third position for Adrián Cruces to be able to take that. Good performance from Cruces once again, and for the Estrella Galicia rider, he's been able to claim his second podium in a row. He was on the podium in Albacete as well to finish third. For Fermín Aldeguer to be able to finish on the podium, we once again see Aldeguer able to claim a second place finish of the season. He was on the podium here in Valencia earlier in the season as well. But for Iván Ortolá, he's been able to claim this race victory, converts the pole position to claim his third victory of the European Talent Cup season. It's actually only his third podium of the campaign as well. But having won the opening 2 rounds of the year, he finishes the season off in style and claims another race victory. Great performance from Iván Ortolá, and he very much earns those 25 points and also the bonus money here in the European Talent Cup as well. So for Iván Ortolá, able to claim that third race victory of his season, and he'll now really be able to enjoy that because the European Talent Cup season comes to a close. Let's hear the Spanish national anthem for our race victor. With the European Talent Cup champion Izan Guevara having sat out this final round of the season to move up to the Moto 3 class here in the Junior World Championship, it opened the door for other riders to try and attack and try and find their way to the front, and it was Iván Ortolá that was able to convert his pole position to be able to take his third race victory of the season. Great performance from the Ángel Nieto rider to be able to do that and able to celebrate up there on the podium with Fermín Aldeguer and also Adrián Cruces. We'll get the opportunity to hear from Ortolá in a couple of moments' time, having claimed that race victory. But before we do that, as you can see, he needs to make sure he's able to get all of his photos from the podium, and he's got a trophy and plenty of memories from this race victory, and this is the move that he made to take that race victory down into that last corner. He was able to try and just open the door there on Aldeguer, and managing to hold him off until the line to win by 1/10 of a second. You can see how close it was behind though, with 3 riders separated by just 16 thousandths of a second in that scrap for the podium positions. Lots of reasons for celebration down in the Ángel Nieto team. That's Gino Borsoi in the middle, and another race victory for them. Nico Terral down there on the pit wall as well. Terral, of course, former 125 world champion. And if you're Iván Ortolá, a race victor, you've got plenty of good riders to be able to give you advice on what the future holds. But 3 wins this season shows exactly what Ortolá can do. Ortolá able to hold off Aldeguer by 1/10 of a second to claim the third race victory of his season. And you can see the gaps between Aldeguer, Cruces and Ruda there was very little to choose between them, and ultimately for Marcos Ruda, as you can see, the race classification under review. That's because Marcos Ruda was adjudged to have ran wide and exceeded track limits and lost that third position. You can see he beat Adrián Cruces by 0.04 of a second to the line, but unfortunately for Marcos Ruda, he won't be able to celebrate with a podium. And for Ruda, it was a really strong performance throughout. He was trying to fight it out for his first podium since Aragon earlier this season, his second podium of the season, and just not quite able to do that. You can see all the way down the order, Daniel Munez, David Munez able to score points, and then Juan Rodriguez taking up the last of those points paying positions. We're going to get the opportunity to hear from Iván Ortolá now in just a couple of moments time. He's down in Parc Ferme with Fran Wild. Let's hear from the race winner.
So Iván, that was another pretty competitive race in the ETC, and you've taken another win to end the season. You must be pretty happy with that.
Yes, I'm very happy with these 3 wins in the race. And in the start of the race, there were a lot of overtakes with other riders, and finally, I can take this win that we deserve. And very happy with the team, family, sponsor, and all the people that come to watch my race.
Y en castellano también.
Bueno, estoy muy contento con la carrera. Al principio hemos tenido muchos adelantamientos, pero finalmente hemos podido conseguir la victoria, que es la que nos merecíamos después de mucho tiempo. Y bueno, muy contento con la familia, con los sponsors y sobre todo con el equipo.
Gracias, enhorabuena.
Gracias.
Izan Guevara able to claim his third race victory of the season and able to move himself up in the championship standings as well. Izan Guevara claims the championship. He misses out on this final round of the year, having skipped it to race in the Moto3 Junior World Championship. But Iván Ortolá moves himself up into second in the championship standings in front of Aldeguer. Rueda missing out on those top 3 spots, having come into today's race in second position. He misses out by 6 points in the final standings. See Lorenzo Fellon down there in 13th position. He crashed out of today's race. He had a strong season in the Red Bull Rookies Cup, not quite able to match that in the European Talent Cup, but it looks like he's going to be stepping up to the Moto3 Junior World Championship next season. So for Iván Ortolá, he was able to convert the pole position into another race victory. The final race of the 2019 European Talent Cup season comes to a close. We had Izan Guevara claiming the championship, and we'll be able to see the championship winner in action in the Moto3 class this afternoon. But Iván Ortolá able to claim the race victory here in Valencia.